Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. It's nice having you back. Today we're going to look at the BMC ADO 17. Yeah, it's a bit of a code. BMC obviously is the British Motoring Corporation. ADO is the Amalgamated Drawings Office, and 17 is just the number. We're going to look at, I guess the simplified word for it is the Landcrab. Yes, a series of vehicles by the British Motoring Corporation. So we've got the Austin 1800, the Morris 1800 and the Wolseley 1885. And later on we had a larger engine version, so the Austin 2200, the Morris 2200 and the Wolseley 6. We're going to specifically look at the Morris 1800 and 2200 today. Now this series of vehicles, like I say, we refer it to the Landcrab, and they ran from 1964 all the way till 1975. The Mark II came along in 1968, and that gave it a more conventional interior, a kind of like cheaper interior I guess, and a change to the grills, and also the rear tail lights. From being a horizontal tail light, it went to a vertical tail light, looked like a bit of a fin. Later still, 1972 came along. They actually put the handbrake on the floor now, but more importantly, those 6-cylinder engines arrived. So in this case, the Morris 2200. This is today's brochure, the new Morris 2200 and 1800. Yes, it's the Mark III. More importantly, it's when this new 6-cylinder engine arrived. So this is a January 1972 brochure. So kind of like the first brochure showing these changes. I think one thing we'll do, we'll have a quick look of the change, or the visual look at how the Mark I changed to the Mark III, and then we'll dig into this brochure proper and we'll see what we can see from this quite a remarkable car in my opinion. So here we go. This is like a comparison between the two Morris versions. The Mark I being on the left side, the Mark III on the right side. You can certainly see that grille change, and there's a bit of a change on the indicators, and you can see a little bit of a difference on the bumpers. Essentially very much looking like the same vehicle, even though that's like the first generation and the last generation. There's really more of a change on the back, so we'll have a look at that. And here we go. Like I say, this is the most notable change on these Morris 1800s. On the right hand side we can see the tail lights on this earlier version are horizontal. The versions on the left, of course, is the Mark III, and that's got these vertical tail lights, which really brings out them tail fins in my opinion. You can see, all of a sudden it looks like it's got tail fins with these real tail lights like that. You can also see a bit of a change on the bumpers, and also interestingly with this picture we can also see on the right hand side, just peeping at the back, there is an Austin Cambridge, which was really a predecessor of this car. This car kind of like replaced that, and I guess more directly the Morris Oxford Mark VI. And we also had the Wolseley 1660, of course. So them versions, them variants, I should say, are the predecessors to these Landcrabs. Eventually the Landcrab, of course, was replaced by the Princess. But anyway, let's look at the brochure and see what else we can see. A good look of the interior on this 2200, and again it's talking about, you know, the advantages of mounting that engine sideways means you've got more space on the inside. Looks a very comfortable interior. By this time, this Mark III version, we've got more conventional clocks, at least on this 2200. I think the early 1800s had sort of like a ribbon speedo on them. This is sort of a much more conventional design. Still a reasonably good sized boot, and overall, like I say, a clever design overall. We did also now at this stage, and it does point this out, we've got a new floor mounted handbrake. Previously it was kind of like a column handbrake system. But anyway, let's move on and look at the next page. And as we move on to the centre pages, this is really my favourite part of the brochure. On the left hand side, it's kind of like wrapping it up, saying, you know, this is the 2200, why not take it for a test drive? And then on the right hand side, it's showing the 1800. Gives you a good idea of the grille change, or the differences in the grille between the 2200 and that 1800. So that's a nice little point to compare. And it also gives you a good view of this sort of like large greenhouse area, lots of glass in it, and also give you an idea of these proportions, and kind of like give you an idea why it got that sort of nickname, the Landcrab. It was unusual proportions from the outside, you know, the wheels are great really on the corners, if you will, is what I'm trying to say. And also it had a sort of very much a sort of low stance, and it was kind of like wider than a lot of cars in its class, giving it that sort of like crab-like appearance. It did have a little bit of a history in sort of like rallying as well, amazingly enough. It wasn't a fast car by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a tough, strong car. And it kind of like went over sort of like rough terrain really well. Not particularly fast, but it did get there. So again, going for that sort of like Landcrab kind of like idea, and a little bit of amalgamation of all that is where this kind of like name came from. And once somebody said the word Landcrab, it stuck, and most people just know this as the Landcrab. You know, you could say it's an unattractive design with having these wheels spaced out and being a low, wide car. But I really appreciate this design. It's been a great design, really, because they set out for doing this, you know, transverse engine and bringing as much space as they can in the interior, and I think it really worked. And again, we give the British motoring cars and the British motoring history a really hard time, and I think we should really celebrate the British motoring history rather than always putting these cars down, I think. And as we can go into the interior of the vehicle, it's kind of like a lot more conventional than the Mark 1 actually, but if you do notice at the speedo, it has got the more unusual speedo on this one than what had on the 2200, and this sort of like a quite a neat minimalist designed interior, which I think suits the car really well and certainly makes it stand out from other cars, I think. And then finally we get to the final page on this 1800, showing this proven 4-cylinder transverse engine. It talks about this hydroelastic suspension, and finally saying, you know, ask your local showroom, they'd be happy to arrange a test drive. And some really nice little images of that Morris 1800 in all its glory. And then the final page, or as we now come very much accustomed to, the technical information, or rather unusually on this particular brochure they call it the works. And it gives you some information about that 1800 and that 2200cc engine and that gearbox that they share. And a little bit more information about the optional extras, you know, reclining front seats, electrically heated rear window, power assisted steering, not on the 1800 when fitted with the alternator, of course, an optional automatic transmission, and it's an alternator on the 800 when not fitted with power steering, and these Ross style wheels which was available on the 2200 only. And at the bottom, saying the usual thing, printed at Cowley, Oxford, and this one's dated January 1972. So there we go, the Morris 1800 and Morris 2200, affectionately named the Landcrab. Incidentally, which I failed to mention when going through that brochure, the Austin 1800 actually won European Car of the Year 1965. And like I say, a lot of these older British models really got a real hammering from the later motoring press, rather unfairly in my opinion. I think these were world-leading designs, really clever ideas. And Sir Alex Izagonis, of course, who designed the Mini, of course, but also designed this one, was, an amazing designer. A lot of the British designers at the time were fantastic, and we don't give them enough praise, in my opinion. But anyway, let me know what you think. Any memories of the Landcrab, this version, or the Austin, or indeed the Wolseley? Let me know in the comments below. That's always interesting to see. But for now, we'll say please do like and subscribe. That really helps the channel. And we'll see you very soon. So take care and goodbye.